On the nose, we were 7 minutes late yesterday, and somebody said to me yesterday, "You were like 10 minutes late." I go, "No, I was 7 minutes late, not 10." But let's call.
Listen,
I'm one of the kids
they
when
gave
it's
us the
like
benefit. We were closer to 10. Just give us 10.
Details
Yeah,
matter.
we were 10.
exactly.
Sorry.
It's
do
like
it
when
again.
you were a kid, right? And you're like, "Okay, we're gonna leave in 5 minutes," and 6 minutes later, they're like, "Why are we not leaving?" Or if you leave in 4 minutes, it's like, "No, you said 5." So I'm gonna pull that card this morning. Welcome everybody to another episode of Sales Chatter. Today we're gonna talk sales, everything from freight to software and everything in between.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
Well, all right. We got another good wolf day today, boys. So Hayden, welcome, my friend. For all of you that don't know, Hayden is an expert at filters on photos on LinkedIn. Totally crushing it with the photos. Hayden's come in today.
Do we have that picture to share as well?
You know what? I was actually thinking I should probably take a screenshot of it because I'm telling you, Hayden, I know it probably feels like harassment, but brother, that filter was like perfect with you holding the fish, the way it's shaded and everything, man. It was golden, man. I love it. But yeah, thanks for joining us, brother. Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for joining us, brother. So Hayden, let's talk sales. I've been dying to have this conversation. I know, isn't it? Yeah. I've been following you for a while, kind of reading your posts, engaging back and forth. And so tell us, as of today, what's the biggest shift that you found in your market in the last, call it 12 months?
Ooh, 12 months. So
I know.
I'd probably reel it back further than that. As far as sales engagement, getting the temperature on the market, engaging in new conversations. So pre-2020, I came into the logistics space in 18 with Worldwide Express, and their business model. I mean, their real product is professional development and sales training. They just happen to do it in the logistics space. But I cut my teeth in the B2B door knocking, local market handshaking, and that was the way to really do things at a more efficient level. And that's how you develop those relationships and connect with people. After the pandemic happened and everybody was forced to transition to kind of an inside sales model, everyone had to adapt quickly. And I think at that moment, using all the different special tools, marketing blasts, the Zoom info, you name it, was such a key tool, and it was so valuable out the gate because everyone's still in the middle of that shift, right? They weren't as inundated with emails and phone calls, so it was a more effective way since I couldn't get to them in person. As that continued, it seemed like it flipped. It became back to the opposite. As things started loosening up, people were opening up in their markets, going back into the office. For these past 2 years, people have been using these online tools to spam, blast, get in front of everyone, calls, text, emails, you name it. So now it's tough to even stand out using those methods unless you get real creative. So what I've found is, one, if you can get into your local market and shake some hands, dude, absolutely do that. I'm in Texas, so we are a little, traditionally speaking, a little more conservative. So it opened up a little sooner than some of the other markets here. But that was the biggest shift, was how, when it all happened, everything went inside sales and we were using all these online tools, and not to invalidate them and say they're not useful, still absolutely are, but it's more of a tool to work in synergy with everything else. And you've got to find that balance of engagement and approach to figure out what is going to put me in the best opportunity to get a conversation going.
Hayden, I love that you said standing out. So what? I guess what's your best approach? I mean, I've seen your video. I wish we could share the video because that's one way to stand out. But what? I guess share some ways that you mentioned about standing out.
Yeah. So when I came into this, I quickly realized how saturated our market was, how fragmented our industry was. And it seemed like everyone kind of blended in. So there's a lot of smoke you had to cut through. And I came into this, which was a mistake in hindsight, but I had to learn it the hard way, was trying to over articulate or explain using, awesome vocabulary to try to prove credibility.
Yeah.
You fell into technobabble.
I did.
Yeah.
Sales and just, hey, look at all this stuff that I know. I'm a master of my of my product. You should work with me. I know what I'm doing. Turns out I was just talking over people. No one cares to have those kinds of discussions unless you really find that weird other kind of logistics geek or person,
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
I laugh because It is one thing I struggle with all the time. I love this industry. I love the geek talking. I mean, you've probably heard it with the three, Dean and DJ and I, like we love geeking out on it.
Yeah.
And it's real tough to rein it back sometimes, brother. Like when you really love what you do,
oh gosh, yes.
That passion can sometimes just make people go, holy crap, slow down, man. Slow down.
I rabbit hole with ease.
Oh, yeah.
It's a slippery slope, so that's something thank God I've had, good mentors and, bosses and coaches to really help call that out and bring that self-awareness.
Ryan says Dan's the biggest transportation geek I know.
Yes,
I really am.
Yes,
like,
he is,
it's actually,
guys. Yes. Listen, sometimes he starts talking about things and it sounds like Chinese or some other language to me.
Brother, it's like an addiction. And I know it's crazy. Like I'm an ex-alcoholic, and I'm one of those people that like, I have a very addictive personality, and I guess there could be worse things to be addicted to. You know what I mean? But for the last, so I'm sober 11 years now, and I'm telling you, man. Oh, thanks, brother. Thanks. And it's like you need to find something to fill that gap, right? It's just, go ahead. Sorry.
It's people used to always.
Sam says Dan's the ultimate logistics geek. I've seen it. Thanks, guys. I'm taking all this as compliments, boys. I got to tell you, because I love my career.
You should.
Yeah.
But I was saying, ADD, ADHD, I found that, most people think that means you can't pay attention or sit still for an extended amount of time. It's a superpower, really. It's you can pay attention to everything at once, but which causes people, at least in my case, I tend to hyper focus on things that intrigue me or make me just genuinely innate curious. And it found out like logistics and supply chain happened to be that at a pretty high level for me when I got into it. The way I look at it now, it's this 3D dynamic jigsaw puzzle that is constantly shifting. So it's my job for people to take that apart and put it back together for their program in a much more efficient way. And that it's more of a game to me. And it's something that, like, money aside, getting paid to do it, like, I'm going to want to do this. Like, I care about your shipping program more than you do. I don't know why that is, but it's a game. It's a challenge. So it's drawn me to it, and kind of gotten me to this point in this industry.
So what was that moment at the beginning of your career where you went, holy crap, I want to do this for the rest of my life? Like, what was that moment? Did you have a moment? And DJ, I want to know from you as well. What was that moment?
I was 7 months in with Worldwide Express. I had just finished up 201 training, which is the follow-up reinforcement training from your 101 of new hires. And it takes a certain tenure and time length to get there. But like most, for the first 6 months, and this is where I would consider myself becoming a real professional salesman. Up until this point, I had sales jobs, but I was kind of just winging it and hoping for the best and hoping people liked me, which was a big flaw. But I had to learn the hard way. And I couldn't point my finger on what caused it, but it was like a switch flipped. And there was a moment of significant empowerment. And I was like, I know what the hell I'm doing. Like, I've got this. And from then on, it's just been logistics related, being able to engage a conversation, dissect their entire operations in every department that logistics touches or affects, and being able to find value on how to improve something in that department that is not currently being done. Questions that have never been asked to them before, whatever that case might be. But since then, dude, I mean, speaking of addiction, that's kind of what it's been. There's not many people who have a call at 7 p.m. and just to nerd out on logistics. Like I can all day.
Call me anytime, man. Anytime.
Oh,
they have no idea what I'm talking about. Right. My coworkers don't want to hear about it after 5 p.m. most of the time, So it's
done.
I love it. DJ, what was that moment in your life where everything just went, holy shit, and switched?
You know what?
And you know what? For all of you in the chat, tell us your story as well. I'd like to share.
Yes, please. Yes, please share. But so similar to Hayden, actually, me and Hayden, very similar roads. I did other sales prior to this. I mean, I've only been in logistics now for about 5 years, but it was literally so I've always had an obsession with business and how business works and numbers and money and logistics. Once you realize it's more than just freight going on a truck and going somewhere, but I mean, it really is kind of the bits and pieces of the world moving, and you're slowly helping the world move and continually move. And it was once I really tied all of that, it was like, oh my goodness, like this is what I've been missing. And yeah, it was that eye opening, like, wow, okay, it's not just I'm selling some other product or I'm selling some window, or I'm selling some improvement, but I'm actually like I'm making a difference in the freaking world. Like my, the vegetables are getting to the food banks over in Hawaii because of me, and it's like those things, and it was like, oh my gosh, it's crazy, and that was it.
That's
In that
awesome.
moment, I was like, I love this. I'm
That's amazing.
obsessed with this.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's a great way. There's always this switch. I think when things become a career, like when it's a job, like you said, Hayden, when it's a job, like you don't really put that much into it. I can remember walking into Walmart and seeing the wrapping paper I just delivered. And I'm sure I've shared this story. I've got two. Early in my career, I got addicted to logistics when I saw the wrapping paper and the glow on the kid's face because like this kid and it was kind of one of these moments that played out in slow motion. And the kid comes flying. I mean, he was like Wile E. Coyote with the wheels turning and the body's not moving as fast as the legs are going, kind of thing. And he comes flying into this skid of wrapping paper. And he grabs like, Mom, look. And he's like, it's like what he's like tossing. And I'm sure he wasn't, but in my mind, he's like tossing it up. And it's like this whole joyous occasion. And I look and I went, oh my God, I literally probably handled that 7 to 12 hours ago, the night before, loading a truck to go to Walmart. And I was like, oh my God. And that's when it clicked. And then the second time was when it really clicked is I was out actually cutting my grass and a truck went by from Home Depot. And for some reason he had the curtain open. And inside the truck, there was cinder block, there was drywall, there was like 9 different things for a home. And that's the day, and that was probably 15 years ago. That was the day I stopped and realized when you do a 360, everything is touched a truck. And that's when the industry took a hold of me.
Yes.
Like those 2 moments, and I mean, you close your eyes and you can relive it as I think about it, right? And that's when I realized there's more to what we do than just picking up and delivering. Like way more. We facilitate those people that buy their first car if you move auto parts. Like we facilitate that. And that is a major responsibility.
Kind of just said it. Kind of said it right. Logistics at Christmas every day. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's
I like to think we're just soldiers out here doing God's work to keep America's supply chain moving.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
Mm. And we've really, the pandemic, I think, has really shown us what happens when shit's not together.
Yeah.
And I don't believe prior to it there was enough emphasis on supply chain. I think we just took so many things for granted. And that's one good thing I do believe about the pandemic is I hope it put people's perspective in place. I mean, I know it did for me because I was work, and now it's you watch family members get real sick and you watch things happen and it's like, okay, it's family. Put a lot of things into perspective for me as a human, as a father, as a husband, as a son. And I think, that's also improves your business game, right? When everything connects, I think we as sales reps become the best we can be. And for all you watching, listen, that starts with geeking out on shit, in my opinion. Anyway.
Well, it's just finding your passion. I mean, once you find your passion, which clearly
you geek out on it.
We all three told our stories in different ways, but I feel like we ended it the same kind of like that was it. And it's it's just that passion, and it's once you find that, then that's when it goes from, again, repeating what Hayden said, it goes from a job to professional. And
something you just said a second ago, once other areas of your life connect, you're able to perform at your highest in your professional role. Are you familiar with the identity role concept, the IR concept?
No. Share.
So I learned this in Sandler training, and it was
Sandler, okay.
Yeah, dude. I learned some good takeaway stuff there that I use needed. But think of a T chart, right? With You got an I on the left column, and R. I is your identity. This is who you are personally. This is how you would identify yourself.
Mm-hmm.
R is your role, whatever that professional role is, right? And you start on that T chart. It's a 10 at the top, 1 at the bottom, right? And then every tick mark in between. 10 being the highest you could possibly perform, 1 being the lowest. The rule of that concept is that if you ever want to be a 10 in your professional role, you have to identify as a 10 in your personal life. You can never perform higher in your professional role than you score yourself here.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I found
No, it makes total sense.
Driving factor for what I do. And that's, I guess, why I'm so into and talk about the fitness thing, scoring away and trying to be your best self in every area of your life, because that is absolutely going to translate into your professional life. How you do anything is how you do everything, right? But I thought that was really interesting how you said that and brought up just my thought of that damn T chart always sticks in my head. Yeah. So,
and now, so let me ask you this: at days when you're not performing your best, do you picture that T chart? Does that like pop in your head and you go like, "Shit, okay, I better step it up here"? Because I mean, listen, we all have good days and bad days. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We all get caught in overwhelm.
Of course,
it's ebbs and flows.
Peaks and valleys.
Yeah, exactly. And
the goal is to ride even as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe that we need the valleys in order to enjoy the peaks.
Absolutely.
And we need the peaks in order to say, holy shit, I'm in a valley. I better make something happen. Right? Because we're in charge. Motion creates emotion.
What? And once you realize that those valleys, if you can just in those valleys take the moment, stop, and realize that it's trying to tell you something. Mm-hmm. It is trying to tell you something. You are not doing something. Something is missing. Figure it out. Once you figure that out, it's like, okay, I'm in a valley. What am I missing?
There you go. And that's where you start climbing out. You typically buy a book. You start reading the book. You don't finish the book. The book goes on the shelf. It becomes shelf help. And right?
Then you're out.
Jeff says, in the 80s, I worked in a warehouse loading trucks by hand, driving forklifts in the trenches work. I started bossing people around. My boss called me into the office, told me to stop, told them they were doing things wrong. I explained to him why. Next thing I know, I had his job and the rest is history. I love logistics. It's in my blood. And I love helping shippers find the hidden bank. That's very good. Trey says, good morning, everybody from Portland.
What up, Trey?
Morning, Trey. Kenneth says, Hayden, that concept will be taught to my team today. Great. I'm sure that's the T chart. Hayden is the freaking man. There you go.
It is.
Trey Griggs agreed. Hayden. Awesome, brother.
Hayden. Look at it. Yes.
Look at that,
eh? It will never go away. I can do that.
Yes.
As long as my kids think it's cool, it's relevant. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Well, I mean, when you do make that connection, everything changes. Like things that used to be hard really become easy. I mean, simple. Not necessarily easy, but they become simple.
It's that cliche in sports that they talk about. It's when the game slows down. I really think that's just, it's one of those things. It really is. And
when that connection happens, it's like, it's not necessarily 9 to 5. Yeah. It's, what do I need to do to step up my game for my customers to help them achieve their goals? And really, it's like this show. I remember even when I sat down with Trey before his show the other day, us having these conversations helps us as much as it helps anyone watching. The three of us having a conversation back and forth, when like all of it matters. And when we love something and when something's a career, we have no problem doing that. Right? It's like you don't think of I got to spend another hour doing this. You don't think of it. It's just okay, this is what we do. This is how it happens. And this is how we become our best selves wherever we're at. It's reality. And I think that once you have that switch, like if you have a team members that haven't had that switch yet, the trick is finding it. And what is it? Because I could tell you, my productivity probably went 700 folds when that switch happened. How much did your productivity pick up, Aiden? How much? What about you, DJ? What about your productivity when that switch happened?
It's
when you feel like you can't lose, you tend to act that way. Your behaviors tend to lean that way, and the trick is I have to play mind games with myself because I'm really weird, and I think anybody that knows knows I'm kind of a sociopath when it comes to this stuff. Like, crazy. But that's just what I have to do. I have to create these scenarios or these narratives in my head to play the game, because you're not going to wake up feeling it every day. That's just life. Like, stuff happens. You're going to be tired, but it all comes back down to the mindset. Do whatever you got to do to get to that mindset that you need to perform.
Yeah. And the key is finding your passion. Really, that's what I'll never.
Well,
I'll
and
never
the game part. I think Hayden said it right. So you take, like, and again, this is where the conversation takes a turn, because you take DJ's analogy of slowing the game down. You take Hayden's analogy of turning your career into a game. You put the two of them together, and now you've got a winning strategy. Just like Ryan says, he says, I love the analogy. DJ, when sports slow down, ESP, the playoffs is when true performers shine. So, you take that mentality and then you blend that with your T-chart, and you start taking chunks of the conversation and putting it together. You just created your own way to stay at, like, the redlining of your energy, of your performance, and it gets chopped down. You think back and it redlines, and your performance starts increasing again, right? Like, this is the gold of what every conversation anyone has, not just us, anyone. And you can get something from it. But that's the difference between paying attention to it and just listening, right? Because we all know we can watch some really cool motivational videos, some really cool training videos. It's like, oh, that's great stuff. And then you go on about your day. Yeah. It's the application of that information that that literally changes our lives, right? Like, Hayden, T-chart, I think that's remarkable, because now all I got to do is close my eyes and I picture the T and 10 and 10. And I'm like, okay, if I'm here on a 2, don't expect a 10 to be over in the R in my role. Yeah. And in a split second, I've now just created the visual from what you said. So now you close your eyes and you see it, but it's the application of that information. You close your eyes, you go, yeah, it's great. Okay. Now what am I going to do? What am I going to do to change my mentality? What am I going to do to change my physiology, to change my approach, to change my energy level to get to that point again? I love it. It's freaking awesome, man.
It is. I like it a lot, because anyone that really wants to use it for what it was intended for, it forces you to get very honest and vulnerable with yourself.
Yes.
You have to call your own BS out on yourself. Like, what am I not holding myself accountable to in my personal life? What am I doing when no one else is looking? Why do I feel insignificant or inferior in my professional life? Why can't I get to that next level? And it forces you to get to have it. Sorry, I got my spring break. I've got all my kids home today.
I wasn't sure if that was DJ's house or yours.
Yeah. Listen, hey, you might hear screaming in mine next. They might have heard you.
But it forces you to get real with yourself. And I think that's the only time you can ever really make change, is if you just stop BSing yourself, dude. Like, are you where you want to be? If you're not, why not? And then you have to start taking inventory of your life. At least this is what I had to do. What is not serving me well?
You're bang on, Hayden. Anyone who doesn't do that will never really achieve their greatness. I'm going to say it's probably a universal law, just like the law of cause and effect and every other law. Like, if you don't seriously stop and analyze and be honest with yourself, man, it's just going to keep coming. It's one of those things, like, the universe will send out a lesson. And if we don't learn our lesson, we'll have the same problems over and over and over again. We really got to learn the lesson in order for the universe to say, okay, perfect. Now we're going to move on to lesson number 2, because it's all about that lesson. I love that fact that you said you got to be vulnerable with yourself and honest and truthful, right? Like,
you can't hide from that voice in your head all day. You can put on a mask for everyone else, and you can lie to the world, and everyone can think you're this one person, but you can't outrun that voice in your head that's calling you out, and that's going to eat at you. At least for me, it did. Not taking care of myself physically. How can I? I'm not taking care of myself to be my best. How can I say I'm able to help other people? I can't even help myself right now, right? And that's one of my big factors when I'm not feeling. It's like, well, dude, there were people that helped me get to where I'm at now. If they weren't at their best to be in that position to help me, how can I do that for other people? Because that's all I'm honestly trying to do at the end of the day, is help people realize their own power and capabilities to get to that next level. Because, like I said, that when that flip switched, I just that dude, it was intoxicating. It was amazing to feel like, dude, I got this shit. Like, I believe in myself, and I can say it with conviction. I'm not just telling my boss, I got this. Like, no, whether anyone's believe it or saying it, pouring it into me or not, I know I've got this. I don't need anyone else's opinion. I'm going to go crush this. And
not only that, Hayden, that filters down into your conversations with prospects. because your prospects have intuition as well. And if we do not believe, and I mean, it's as simple as having that, can the operations really handle this? And all of a sudden that comes right out in your voice, right out in your tone, in your, like, the people you're sitting around have intuition as well. You know, we tend to think, okay, well, I'm going to hone my intuition and I'm going to get better at and we totally forget about other people's intuition, where we walk in and we're like, oh, they'll never know I'm bullshitting. Yeah, they will. And they'll figure it out pretty darn quick.
They will. I think, Hayden, you hit it right on the head. You got to be real with yourself. But I think the big key to being real with yourself, Tom Bilyeu talked about it in this keynote, and it was clarity. It always came to clarity. You need to find clarity. That's the key.
Once you get to the point where you can set ego and pride aside, you can really start to make progress, because you're okay with failing. I'll figure it out, but I'm okay with taking an L if I have to.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, listen, an L is learning.
Just a lesson.
Learning.
It's not a loss.
It's a lesson. Yeah. It's like, you know, there's nothing to it. You know, like, I mean, sorry, I shouldn't say that. If your perspective is you know, like, listen, you have to get through. Andrea Waltz, who's coming on next week, her and Richard Fenton wrote the book Go for No. If you want to read a wicked sales book, that's a sales book to read. And, you know, they say you have to get through no to get to yes. So if we can learn that no is not a loss, it's actually a learning experience. And it's something, you know, hey, why don't we go for 100 no's today? So if you get 20 yeses, you keep friggin' going until you get 100 no's, right? Instead of getting 2 yeses, we're like, damn, I did good today. I'm going to go take a round of golf up here and let's go. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the perspective, and it's the shift. Trey says, up at 6 a.m. this morning, which tells me I love me some Hayden. Yes. Love it. Hayden, where'd you build that sweet backdrop? You know what, Trey? We were talking about that. We were talking about that off camera.
Yeah. Home Depot, like $50. You can get some barnwood planks. No problem.
Yeah. Beauty. The oxygen mask in the airplane, you have to put yours on first or you can't help anyone. Maggie, Jeff, damn right. Boom. That is key. You do have to put your mask on first. And, you know, if you're in a bad spot, just and here's the thing. And here's one thing, gentlemen, and love your thoughts on this before we end for today. You know, salesperson that's in a bad spot, you don't necessarily have to be out of that bad spot before you can help people. You just have to be real about where you are and put some things in place to help you get better, whatever that means. Whether that's getting, you know, associating your time better during the day to actually start building a funnel, you know, like maybe it's speaking better. Maybe it's going to take I mean, hell, I've taken like writing courses. I've done so many things. Like, you wouldn't think writing, what the hell you get? Like, it's logistics. It's like, okay, but I want to engage people. If I want to engage people, I got to learn how to write, you know, and I would also say something outside the industry to make you a human as opposed to just a salesperson. What do you guys think?
I'm still very much obviously a student of the game. There's still so much to learn that I want to learn. Nowhere near I want to be. But if I could pass on one piece of information to a sales rep who's struggling or is looking to figure it out, the thing that I had to learn the hard way, and I wish I would have learned it sooner, is to detach yourself from the outcome of your efforts. You can't my goal was, all right, if I'm cold calling. If I don't get a meeting or a demo set on this first cold call, I'm a failure. And that's what it subliminally, that was my mindset. That's not sustainable. You're going to beat yourself up and hate yourself because we are in a game of failure. The sales process, you've got to start somewhere, right? So your goal is to figure out, is this person a good fit for what I do or not? Do I want to continue engaging this person or do I not? That should be the goal of prospecting, because that's what it is. You have to begin somewhere and start to build that. Detach yourself from the outcome. You have a process, trust it, control the controllables, effort, output, touch points. I mean, that's as simple as that sounds. It's so easy to complicate because I was, again, can relate to this personally.
We're human. We're very good at complicating things.
I was worried about the outcome, and it's like, and worried about being that likable person. Like that's not my job. My job is to provide solutions to find the people that I serve best. That's my job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And you know, when you're doing that, there's always a flip side to it. Believing in what you do so much that you know in your heart of hearts you can help these people, and for some reason it's just not coming across as clear as you think. As a sales rep, more often than not, I've found that to be a huge issue. It's like, no, hold on. Maybe I'm not explaining it properly. Do you understand? Like, I'm trying to get through to you how this is really going to help you, how my team, my service, everything is like, you know, and you try and just realize they're just not your ideal client. Yep. And it's tough because when you have so much passion for what you do, and when you believe in what you do, when you believe in your team, when customers that have been like just in a world of chaos are going, oh my gosh, you and your team are like saviors. It's tough not to techno babble that to the next person. Right. And that's what I saw right away when we jumped in this conversation right away, Hayden. It's your passion is so high that techno babble just kind of spews out of us because we're like, oh my God, do you understand what you could do? You could do this and this and this. And everybody's like, and they're looking at you like a deer in a headlight, and they're like, holy shit, you just totally like blew me away. And I've got to tone that down all the time. It's always in my head.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh,
Jeff
man.
says, yes, detach from the outcome.
Agreed.
I love that. Control the controllables and let go of what you can't. 100%. And, you know, Hayden, you said that, and Ryan, you know, as well. It's tough. It's tough to let go. You know, as a human, as a salesperson, especially when you believe in your heart of hearts, it's the right thing that's going to help, right? But some people just aren't going to listen. That's it.
No,
okay.
You know, we look at this show. I look at Trey's show. We look at this show. It's like so many salespeople can up their game a millionfold. The amount of guests we have, the dean on every Wednesday, like just all of it. It's like some people are never going to watch, never going to listen. And that's okay. You know, how many salespeople today that are listening and watching can literally change their entire life just with the information Hayden shared?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone.
I think Kenneth,
Everyone.
was it Kenneth? Somebody just said they're going to use something, you know, Hayden's T-chart in their training today. So there you go.
But there's going to be people that watch it and go, great, and move on.
For a post, then that's it's well worth the effort put into it, because, you know, it all comes back full circle. Put more good out in the world. Just put as much as you can. So I know we have to cut off soon, but I've always had this probably about 4 years ago, this weird thought that kind of drives me in a lot of what I do.
There it is.
How many people in this world have revolutionary ideas, concepts, inventions? You could be sitting on a $20 billion company that you do design from scratch in your head, but you never had the confidence or self-belief to try or get it off the ground. Think about how many talented, smart people out there that have no self-belief have something that could quite literally change the world.
Mm-hmm.
So my mindset was, okay, if to begin helping people empower themselves or really realize how capable and powerful they are in whatever they want to do. And all it takes is that relentless self-belief. Like, what difference could we actually make?
Mm-hmm. One of my mentors, Rene Godefroy, said, Dan, here's the reality of life. You're one applied idea away from getting and helping everyone achieve what they want to achieve. That's it. We are literally one applied idea away.
And it's such a simple concept. It's so easy to complicate or overthink.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like you look at, okay, so for example, you look at like, and I'll use a really far out example. You look at Elon Musk, okay? When he sold PayPal, the first thing he said is, I want people to live on Mars. That was what, 20 years ago, I think? Maybe 17 years ago, 20 years ago. Like, it was a long time ago. And you look at that conversation. He's still having the conversation today. That time ago, it was like, dude, you are probably like the craziest person I've ever met. Like, put him in a straitjacket. Like, you got to remember, right? But that was his belief. Yeah. And I know it's a far out example, but I think that far out example tells us something. You know, you look at Dyson. Dyson said, you know, vacuum's been around for eons and they were okay. And he said, there's something wrong with it. We could do it better. And, you know, he made 5,127 different prototypes of the Dyson vacuum. And this is the knowledge shit that I spew. He made 5,127 different prototypes. Every one in his life thought he should be in a straitjacket. The only one that believed in him was his wife. He didn't make the Dyson vacuum to start Dyson. He wanted to sell it to like Hoover or all these, and they all thought he was crazy. Like, why would you do that? Nobody wants to see their dirt. Why would somebody want to see what comes out of their carpet? And he goes, because that feeling that it's like, oh man, like, oh my God, it's so clean. And they were like, they laughed him out of the place. And that's the only reason he started Dyson. You look at it now. Like it's these game changers in the world, but that starts with a belief. Like think about it. If you made 5,027 phone calls and everyone said no, would you go to 5,128 to
Highly
get the
unlikely.
customer? Very unlikely. I mean, I don't know if I would, but these are the ones that change, and that comes from what you were talking about, Hayden. That 10, the T chart, 10, 10, IR, the belief and just that ever overwhelming, no, this needs to get to market. This needs to get to market. This needs to get to market because it's going to change people's lives. And I believe in logistics, we have the opportunity. We have everything in our power to truly change people's lives, even if it's just as simple as reducing that stress level to be bearable, and our customers go home and treat their family better. Because they're not allowing that stress to get to them. Like there's so many different levels.
They don't have that anxiety of bringing work home.
And it's not this like rocket science, and it's not this, I'm going to be like God's gift and 20% off their shipping and there's going to be no delivery delays and all that. Like, listen, we can't control those uncontrollables.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm telling you, that one thing that changes can change people's lives forever. And it's very simple.
We have to have Hayden on for another show for sure, because man, you opened a door. So when you said that, I'm guessing Les Brown, if you haven't, Les Brown says it all the time. Richest place in the world is the graveyard, because a lot of people die with those dreams because they're just too afraid of the uncertainty of what comes from letting it out. But so we definitely have to talk about that. But man, I'm going to take control, end it, because we're overdoing it. We got to have Hayden back. But thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, man, Hayden.
I appreciate you guys having me on. This is my second podcast in my entire life. So never had like a kind of a more one-on-one. I was with Trey and the street crew, I guess a week or so ago. That was fun. Yeah, I enjoy this. I just like cutting it up with people that have that same. Dude, I just anyone that has a just crazy passion about something. I don't care if it's checkers, croquet, karaoke.
Yes,
you're like really about it. I want to talk to you. I want to hear about it. Like, because that stuff gets me pumped up. Because so many people don't. Everything's just kind of like to them. Like,
yes,
I love that.
Well, it shines through.
DJ, bring us out, brother.
I see it. We definitely, man. We definitely have to have you on more. But again, guys, Sales Chatter Live, like and subscribe down below. If you're seeing us on YouTube, you can catch our videos and our replays on YouTube, on our Sales Chatter Live YouTube channel. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, our personal pages, as well as we have a Sales Chatter Live page. Great show, great advice. Hey, Sam, thank you. And again, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. till 9:30. Start your day, Eastern Standard Time. Start your day right with us. Get motivated. Get ready. This advice, I don't know who it came from, but let me just tell you, it's great. Eat well, read books, study yourself, expand your mind, do better, and get better. Last but not least, remember, you are your greatest investment. Invest in you.
Nice. That's a great one to end the show with, brother.
Thank you.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education.